What's up, guys? Do you want to own real estate without the spotlight? Well, in this video, I will share with you 6 techniques you can implement to activate what I call stealth mode in your real estate ownership, becoming the landlord everyone rents from, but no one truly sees. Okay, let's get started. All right, there's a couple different ways to become an anonymous landlord. And it has to do with how you set up your entities or the types of entities you're going to be using in your setup. Now, the first one we like to use is a limited liability company. And most people who set up LLCs are not aware that they can actually create their LLC with complete anonymity, so their name is not listed on that limited liability company. Or more importantly, information that ties back to them is not associated with that LLC. So you can keep your name completely out of the public record. Now, in order to do this, you have to set the LLC up the right way. Because once your information is out there, maybe you have a business address that your name's associated with or your name's on the entity, there's no way we can unring that bell. That's one entity, and I'm going to show you how to do that. And the second entity is using a land trust. So you can actually use a land trust to provide anonymity for the real estate that you own. So if somebody looks at that title of that property, they're going to see that trust name, and it's not going to relate back to you. So these are 2 important entities that we use when it comes to creating anonymity. So let me show you on the board what I'm talking about. Okay, so what am I referring to here when I talk about anonymity for your business? What I'm getting at is how you set up your LLC. So let's assume that I was going to create a limited liability company here in Washington State. So when I set up that business entity, what I'll be doing is I'll be listing myself as a member, and if it's set up as a manager-managed LLC, I'll be listing myself as a manager. Now, right then and there, people are able to discover that this is my limited liability company, and I don't want that to happen. So I want to use an anonymity structure around this setup. And a lot of attorneys will tell you it's impossible. If you're setting up an LLC and you name the state, Texas, Oklahoma, you can't get anonymity. Well, they're just flat out wrong. They don't know how to do it. Now, here's how you get anonymity for your LLC. What you can do is you first want to start with a Wyoming limited liability company down here. You set up a Wyoming LLC, of which you will be the member and manager. Now, the reason we're going with Wyoming is because in Wyoming doesn't collect any information on who the members or managers are, so your name's not going to appear there. It's basically invisible because they're not asking who's the member or who's the manager. Where you've got Washington up here where they're up into everyone's business and they want to know who the members and managers are. So we're going to fix this by setting up our structure where we first create this Wyoming LLC, and then we create our Washington LLC, and we make this Washington LLC a member-managed limited liability company. So when we file the Washington LLC, we're listing the Wyoming LLC as its member. So if somebody looks here, they see this. If they look here, they see this. They have no idea. That's how you create the structure with LLCs. Now, how does this go into real estate investing? Well, obviously, if you're buying property out of this Washington LLC, great. You're going to take title in the name of the limited liability company and your name won't be on there. But for most of us, we don't buy title, or we're not taking title in the name of the LLC directly, because if it's residential real estate and we have a conventional loan on it, we've got to close in our own name. But we can transfer title in after we've closed. So in that type of structure, you buy in your own name over here. Then after you close, you deed the property into that LLC. See, you went from having your information up there to privacy by filing that one deed. Now, there's another aspect to this as well that's really important. That is having a virtual business, I'm just call it virtual business address, VBA. You need to have a virtual business address if you're looking for anonymity. Because the thing is that when you're setting up your Washington Limited Liability Company or your Wyoming LLC, if you use an address, because it's going to ask, what is your business address in this state? Or the address doesn't have to be in Wyoming, it could be in any state, but if they ask you for a business address, which they do, then if you give them your personal address or an address that's associated with you, and you're not using a virtual business address, that's a way for someone to figure out that you're involved. So if you're looking to own real estate anonymously, you want to be invisible, you have to make sure when you're setting up your business entity, you're using an anonymity compliant, that's what we call the Wyoming LLC, anonymity compliant LLC, because they don't collect information on you, and you have a virtual business address with that entity. Two main components to get invisible, all right? So we use this a lot when we're taking property that we already own and we're transferring that property into a limited liability company. Now, I talked about a land trust. If you want to use a land trust, same concept here. You set up a land trust. And if you don't know what a land trust is, well, you're at the right channel, because just search my channel, look at my playlist. I have a lot of videos on land trusts. But with land trust, it's the same idea. You've got your trust set up. You're going to use a Wyoming LLC, again, anonymity compliant LLC, as your trustee right here. So it's a trustee of your land trust. And then you take that property, that title to that house, and you deed it directly into the land trust in care of the trustee. So now, by using this strategy right here again, you're going to get that anonymity on title, because it's going to list the LLC as the trustee of the trust name, and your name's not going to be associated with it. Now, both of these strategies, remember, require an anonymity compliant LLC and a virtual business address. And the reason you want a virtual business address is that in order to be invisible, you don't want your address associated with these entities, and more importantly, your property tax statements. That's where you also can get into problems, because when you transfer property into these structures, you need to change your property tax statements, where the property tax statements are going to be sent. So you want to send them to that virtual business address. So whenever you're choosing a virtual business address, you want to make sure that they provide mail forwarding. So they forward you the mail as it comes in, so you don't screw up and not pay your property taxes. All right, so that's how you would take existing property. Now let's say I wanted to buy a new property and I don't have a business entity set up yet. Well, another way in which you can do this, if you want anonymity, is use a nominee. Okay, use a nominee to take title to that property. Okay, so if you're going to use a nominee, what you're doing is you're using an attorney. All right, you may think this is a plug for myself. It's not. But you're going to use an attorney who will take title in a trust for your benefit. Now, I've done this before for clients where we set up a land trust. So if we're not using an LLC, we set up a trust. And again, this is a cash purchase deal. So on these types of scenarios, what you'll be doing is you'll be buying the property for cash, but title will be taken in the attorney's name as trustee of this trust, and you as the client, you're sitting down here as the beneficiary. So none of that information gets disclosed. Obviously, if you can buy property with cash, this is going to be a preferred method when you're closing on the deal, because when you take title, your name never appears anywhere in that chain of title. You're taking it directly in the name of that trust, or you could use the LLC strategy as well. But those are some different ways in which you can buy property and be anonymous from the outset. And again, you need that virtual business address. Now, the next thing you got to be aware of when you have real estate, if you're trying to build anonymity around these types of structures. So let's say I've got an LLC set up there. Maybe I've got another one where I'm using that land trust to hold title to the property. And of course, I have my Wyoming LLC down here. All right, so now the next question is, who's managing these properties? So if you're self-managing your real estate, well, that can always be a problem for you, because even though if you're up here as the manager, all right, of these various properties, I recommend oftentimes that if you're going to be your own manager, you should set up a separate LLC up here to manage your own investments, so that when you're dealing with tenants, you can say, hey, I just manage these properties. I've had a few people bring up to me, hey, Clint, you're deceiving your tenants when you tell them you do not own these properties. That's BS, all right? Because I don't own these properties. Entities own these properties. I am telling them the truth. I do not own these properties. I don't have to tell them that I own entities that own the property. So if that's your mindset, that you think you're a deceitful person if you tell your tenants, hey, I'm just the manager, not the owner. No, you're absolutely 100% truthful. In fact, if you were in court and you were under oath, that's exactly what I would tell you to say if somebody asked you if you own this real estate. So here's the point. You're the property manager there. That's going to give you some anonymity. But if you don't even want to be associated with these assets, then you don't want to be your own manager of the things. What you want to use is an outside property management company to manage your real estate. So your information isn't in any way tied to your properties. So the whole thing about building an invisible plan is creating the right types of structures from the outset to hold title to your property. And then how are you operating this? Listen, I've written an ebook called The Invisible Investor Guide. If you want to get a copy of it, I've actually included a link down below where you can go and download a copy of my Invisible Investor ebook that will walk you through various strategies on how to hold title to your real estate with complete anonymity. Check it out now. I guarantee you it's going to open your eyes to becoming an invisible investor. Hey guys, if you like this video and you want to become an invisible investor, this is your opportunity to get that ebook. Click on the link below. Go there, download it. It's going to open your eyes to when it comes to real estate investing the invisible way. And if you like this video, be sure to smash the like button. Send a link to your friends who are also real estate investors and let them know, hey, there's another way to invest where your name doesn't need to be on everything so you can keep complete privacy. So attorneys, disgruntled tenants, creditors don't know what you have, because at the end of the day, they can't sue what they can't see.